Okay, so this is Daf 27 of Shevuot. It starts out with a new Mishnah here. It says, if one takes an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah and he does not refrain, he is exempt from bringing an offering for an oath on an utterance. If he takes an oath to perform a mitzvah and he does not perform it, he is also exempt, though it would have been fitting to claim that he is liable to bring an offering in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. The Mishnah explains, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera said, "What? If with regard to an oath concerning an optional matter, for which one is not under oath from Mount Sinai, he is liable for breaking it, then with regard to an oath about a mitzvah, which he is under oath from Mount Sinai, is it not logical that he would be liable for breaking it?" And the rabbi said to him, "No, if you said that one is liable for breaking an oath concerning an optional action, where the Torah rendered one liable for a negative oath not to perform it, like for a positive oath to perform it, shall you also say one is liable with regard to breaking an oath concerning a mitzvah, where the Torah did not render one liable for a negative oath like for a positive oath? Since if one takes an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah and did not refrain, he is exempt." Back to the Gemara. The Gemara says, the sages taught in a Braita, one might have thought that when one takes an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah and he does not refrain, he would be liable to bring an offering for an oath on an utterance. To counter this, the verse states, to do evil or to do good, Leviticus 5:4. Just as doing good is referring to an oath about an optional action, so too doing evil is referring to an oath about an optional action. I will therefore exclude from liability one who takes an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah and does not refrain, so that he is exempt from bringing the offering. The Braita continues, one might have thought that when one takes an oath to perform a mitzvah and does not perform it, that he would be liable. To counter this, the verse states to do evil or to do good. Just as doing evil is referring to an oath about an optional action, so too doing good is referring to an oath about an optional action. I will therefore exclude from liability one who takes an oath to perform a mitzvah and does not perform it, so that he is exempt from bringing the offering. One might have thought that when one takes an oath to harm himself and does not harm himself, that he could be exempt from liability. The verse states to do evil or to do good. Just as doing good is referring to an oath about an optional action, so too doing evil is referring to an oath about an optional action. I include as liable one who takes an oath to harm himself and does not harm himself, since it is his prerogative to harm himself or not. One might have thought that when one takes an oath to harm others and does not harm them, that he would be liable. To counter this, the verse states to do evil or to do good. Just as doing good is referring to an oath about an optional action, so too doing evil is referring to an oath about an optional action. I will therefore exclude from liability one who takes an oath to harm others and he does not harm them, since it is not his prerogative to do so. From where is it derived that taking an oath that concerns doing good to others is included among the oaths for which one is liable? The verse states, or to do good. And what is harming others? An example is when one takes an oath saying, I will strike so-and-so and injure his brain. The Braita assumes throughout that to do evil or to do good is referring to optional actions. The Gemara asks, but from where do we know that these verses are written referring to optional matters? Perhaps they are written referring to matters involving a mitzvah. The Gemara rejects this. This should not enter your mind, since we require that doing good be similar to doing evil, and doing evil be similar to doing good, as doing evil is juxtaposed to doing good in the verse. If one stipulates that the verse is referring to matters involving a mitzvah, then just as doing good does not involve refraining from performing a mitzvah, but must involve performing a mitzvah, an oath to eat matzah on Passover, so too doing evil does not involve refraining from performing a mitzvah. An oath not to eat leavened bread on Passover. The result of this reasoning is that doing evil in the verse is itself doing good, and that it will always involve taking oaths to keep mitzvot. And likewise, doing good is juxtaposed to doing evil. Just as doing evil does not involve performing a mitzvah, as it would then not be doing evil, so too doing good does not involve performing a mitzvah. Doing good in the verse is itself doing evil, in that it does not involve the fulfillment of mitzvot. The Gemara asks, if that is so, that doing evil and doing good are compared in this matter, Do you not find that the verse can be interpreted even with regard to optional matters, as the same sort of contradiction can be generated? Rather, one may derive that the verse is referring to optional matters from the fact that it was necessary for the verse to write or to do good, in order to include liability for oaths that involve doing good to others. Conclude from it that these verses are written referring to optional matters, as if it should enter your mind that the verses are written referring to matters involving a mitzvah. There is a difficulty. Now that doing evil to others has been included, that is, when one takes an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah, it is necessary to mention doing good to others. The Gemara challenges, but this or is necessary in order to separate them, that is, to indicate that one can be liable for either type of oath. Had the verse said to do evil and to do good, one might assume that one is liable only for oaths that involve both. The Gemara answers, a verse is unnecessary in order to separate, as it is clear that either sort of oath is included. The Gemara asks, this works out well according to Rabbi Yonatan's opinion concerning the interpretation of conjunctions, but according to Rabbi Yoshia's opinion, what can be said? The Gemara explains, as it is taught in Braita, from the verse, a man who curses his father and his mother shall die. Leviticus 20, verse 9. I have derived only that one is liable if he curses both his father and his mother. From where do I derive that if one curses his father but not his mother, or his mother but not his father, he is liable? The continuation of the verse states, his father and his mother he has cursed. His blood is upon him. In the first part of the verse, the word curses is in proximity to his father, and in the last part of the verse, cursed is in proximity to his mother. This teaches that the verse is referring to both a case where he cursed only his father and a case where he cursed only his mother. This is the statement of Rabbi Yoshia. So Rabbi Yoshia maintains that conjunctions are interpreted strictly unless the verse indicates otherwise. So Rabbi Yonatan says there is no need for this derivation because the phrase his father and his mother indicates that one is liable if he curses both of them together. And it also indicates that he is liable if he curses either one of them on their own, unless the verse specifies that one is liable only if he curses both together. An example of a verse where the Torah specifies that halacha applies only to the two elements in conjunction is, quote, you shall not plow with an ox and a donkey together, Deuteronomy 22, verse 10. The Gemara continues, you may even say that the verse is referring to optional matters according to the opinion of Rabbi Yoshia. He holds in accordance to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who interprets the Torah using the hermeneutical principle of amplifications and restrictions. And the word or is superfluous and is used to separate to do evil from to do good. The Gemara explains how one derives that the oaths referred to in the verse are oaths about optional matters in accordance with Rabbi Yoshia, who interprets the verse in accordance with the principle of amplifications and restrictions. So it says, granted, if you say that the verse about an oath on an utterance is written with regard to optional matters, the words to do evil or to do good serve to restrict the meaning of the verse and exclude the application of an oath on an utterance to a matter involving a mitzvah. The Gemara asks rhetorically, but if you say that the verse is written referring to a matter involving a mitzvah, what do the words to do evil or to do good serve to restrict? The Mishnah teaches, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera said, what? If with regard to an oath concerning an optional matter, for which one is not under oath for Mount Sinai, he is liable for breaking it, then with regard to an oath about a mitzvah for which he is under oath for Mount Sinai, is it not logical that he would be liable for breaking it? The rabbis then asked him why he thinks one should be liable for an oath about a mitzvah, since one would be exempt if it were inverted from positive to negative, rendering it an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah, which does not take effect. The Gemara comments, the rabbi's objection to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera is well stated. The Gemara responds, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera could say to you, isn't there the case of an oath involving doing good to others, even though it does not involve the possibility of being inverted to include liability for an oath concerning harming others? But nevertheless, the Merciful One has amplified the halacha to include it. Here also, with regard to an oath to perform a mitzvah, even though it does not include the possibility of being inverted to include liability for an oath concerning refraining from performing a mitzvah, the Merciful One has amplified the halacha to include it. And how could the rabbis respond? They could say that there, with regard to an oath to do good to others, there is the possibility of inverting the oath to, I will not do good. Here, with regard to an oath to perform a mitzvah, is there a possibility of a valid oath, I will not perform a mitzvah? Okay, back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, if one says, on my oath I will not eat this loaf, and then says again, on my oath I will not eat it, and again, on my oath I will not eat it, and then he ate it, he is liable only once. Once the first oath had taken effect, the subsequent oaths could not, as a prohibition, cannot take effect where another prohibition is already in place. So this is an oath on an utterance for which one is liable to receive lashes for intentionally breaking it. And for unwittingly breaking it, one is liable to bring a sliding scale offering. For an oath taken in vain, one is liable to receive lashes when it is taken intentionally, and one is exempt when it is taken unwittingly. So back to the Gemara. The Gemara asks, why do I need to teach the Mishnah such that the wording of the first oath is, on my oath I will not eat this loaf, and then the wording of the second oath is, on my oath I will not eat it? The Gemara answers, this teaches us that the reasoning that he is liable only once is that he said, I will not eat this loaf, and then said, I will not eat it. But if he said, I will not eat it, and then he said, I will not eat this loaf, he would be liable twice. This is in accordance with the opinion of Rava. As Rava says, if one says, on my oath I will not eat this loaf, once he has eaten in all of bulk of it, he is liable. As this oath is understood to mean that it is prohibited for him to eat any of the loaf. If he says, on my oath I will not eat it, he is not liable unless he eats the whole loaf. The words, I will not eat it, indicate that his oath applies only to eating the entire loaf. Accordingly, when the first oath is, I will not eat it, and the second oath is, I will not eat this loaf, the second oath can take effect as it generates a new prohibition that applies to each and every olive bulk of the loaf. Okay, the Mishnah teaches if one says, on my oath, I will not eat this loaf, and he then says again, on my oath, I will not eat it, and again, on my oath, I will not eat it, and then he ate it, he is liable only once. The Gemara asks, why do I need the Mishnah to mention this additional third oath, I will not eat it? The Gemara answers, this teaches us that there is no liability where one states redundant oaths, but there is an oath, the final oath, is not completely discounted, so that if you find room, that is an application for the additional oath, it goes into effect. For what matter is this halakha relevant? It is relevant for the statement of Rava, as Rava says that if one requested of a halakhic authority to dissolve the first oath, and he did so, the second one counts for him in its place unless it too was dissolved. The Gemara suggests, let us say that the following Baraita supports his opinion. With regard to one who took two vows of Naziriteship, Nezirut, and counted the first term of Nezirut and separated an offering for it, and afterward requested and received dissolution of the first vow from a halakhic authority, the second term was counted for him in observance of the first term, and he is not required to be a Nazirite further. This indicates that the second vow went into effect retroactively once the first was dissolved, and the same would be true in the case of two oaths. Okay, the Gemara rejects this. How can these cases be compared? There, the second Nizirut is there in any event, as once he counts the first term, he needs to return and count the second if there is no request for dissolution. Here, if he does not request dissolution of the first oath, is there a second oath at all? Therefore, one cannot find support for Rava's opinion from the Braita. Rava says, if one took an oath about a loaf and then ate it, he left an olive bulk of it, he may request that his oath about the loaf be dissolved. If he ate the whole loaf, he may no longer request that his oath about it be dissolved. So Rav Acha, son of Rava, said to Rav Ashi, what are the circumstances? If one took an oath where he said, I will not eat this loaf, which Rava, as cited above, understands as rendering it prohibited for him to eat any part of the loaf, then with the first olive bulk that he ate, he already committed this transgression. If he took an oath where he said, I will not eat it, which Rava understands as rendering it prohibited for him to eat only the whole loaf, why does Rava mention specifically that he left over an olive bulk? And that is the end of Daf 27. Thanks for watching.